Laura Garcia, welcome to Fortitude and Flow, the podcast.
Thank you, Frederick. Great to be here.
It's very nice that you are here. It's going to have a lot of fun today.
I hope so.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You have more than 25 years of experience in the psychology field. Can you tell more about your background? What got you into and interested in psychology and to help people who struggles with mental health and traumas?
Well, it was I think when I was like studying in high school, I really wanted. I never thought about being a psychologist. I like to like trips and things like that, and I wanted to do something related with that. But I found a teacher, and he started to teach about psychology in high school, but Freud, and I don't know, something like started to something in me started to feel curious about that, and I finally ended doing psychology. And after that, well, when I was in the career in the university, I don't know why, I was like very curious about addictions. So I suppose I didn't know it was related with trauma, but it is. So I started to do a research and a lot of things related with addictions. And finally when I finished my career, I directly started working with addictions. That's where I started like 6 years working. And after that, I continued with eating disorders. So that was like the way I entered in trauma when I started working with eating disorders. Because behind that, there are a lot of personality disorders. So it's when I started to investigate and research and learn about trauma. And that's where I met borderline, this patient. So, it was like addiction and eating disorders, and then borderline things and trauma. It was like a line. And it was like I needed to know more. I didn't understand what happened there. So it was I need to know where this comes from. Those are symptoms, really. So where does that come from? There's got to be a place. So there I started to study and study and study, and well, now here I am a lot of years ago. And one of the things that is my passion is working in trauma and investigating and learning more things about that.
It's very interesting, all of this, because this field has been developing itself and expanded through science as well for a long time now. Old research doesn't necessarily are relevant that much today. And we're going to talk more about reasons why. Um, but you also have had some, on your webpage it says that you also go to therapy yourself.
Yeah.
Can you tell more about that?
Well, I think it's very important. In my web, it says talks about a lot about, well, it talks a little bit about me, not much, but it did says that me myself, I go to therapy, and it's like I think I'm trying to develop the best version of me. I think we never stop, but it's like it's a work of a lifetime, and I think it should never end. And I think it's very important, if you're a psychologist, if you treat people and you're with people, you're the first one that you have to, well, take care of yourself and see if you have any injuries or wounds and take care of them. Because if I don't do that, that won't let me work with the wounds of my patients. It's like if you are my patient and you're not going to go more ahead than I do, because my defenses are not going to let me know or see your wounds. So this is very important for me, for my patients, like to understand this. And that also, I think it's very important to be in that chair. When you see a patient, I think it's important to feel what they feel when you sit there. I always say to them, I do a lot of kinds like therapies, different therapies, and I never do nothing with a patient that I've never done with myself as a patient, to see see how you feel and how that works on you, if it works or not. And I think it helps a lot in my work to understand what it is to go through traumas. Of course, I have never gone through the kind of traumas most of my patients have gone through, but at least the best I can do with mine. Well, it helps to know how hard it is to sit there and go through a lot of things.
Yeah, it really is sometimes very hard because it's a lot of emotional things and stuff that comes up under a therapy session can be extremely overwhelming, and you can start to feel that your stomach hurts, or you get more tense in your feet, or starting to sweat, dry in your mouth. All this, it can trigger a lot of anxiety.
Hmm.
Just talk about stuff.
Of course.
So I think that that's actually introduce basically what is PTSD and complex PTSD, and what's the difference between of those.
Well, the basic difference is that PTSD is caused it's caused because of one singular trauma. For example, it's like very simple. It's a simple trauma. It's simple, just one. And when there's more than one trauma in the life of a person, then we just call it complex PTSD. It's not so easy. It's more than that. But usually, the main difference lies between the type of trauma you have. It's very important, the duration of it. If it's more, of course, if it's a long term, then it will be worse. The impact of the trauma in the person and the symptoms they have. So, for example, a PTSD could be an accident, an assault, a war, things like that. A natural disaster, but just that thing. If you have natural disaster and an assault, then we're moving to a complex PTSD because there are more things about that.
So it's like if you, for example, experience a tsunami, which is a traumatic event, that's like something that probably, hopefully, it just happened once in your lifetime. You experience it. That's the PTSD. And the complex PTSD would be, for example, growing up in a dysfunctional family as a child, and you don't get out of it. It happens to you over several years.
Exactly. That's it. And imagine that this kind of child that has gone all this through his childhood, then goes through a natural disaster. Imagine that person, the background he has, the history of his emotions, and all that stuff, and how he will manage that disaster. So it wouldn't be the same thing as if it's a person that never have gone through anything, any trauma, and just have a tsunami, natural disaster. The way they're going to manage is very different. For example, that's like the basic thing of the difference between both of them is the effects on the person, the symptoms it's going to cause to me, the impact, and how I'm going to manage that.
Yeah, that's how it is. But I think that you can say that people who have been through a lot of traumas before an event, then it would be they cope with it differently, basically.
Exactly. That's it.
And it's harder, I think, for people who have been to complex PTSD. I think that we're gonna, yeah, I think we can also talk about why do some people develop complex PTSD and PTSD, and some people not.
Well, it's about like what I was saying. It's in part of it. It's how you copy with things, like you were saying. If 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 I have grown up in a house, we all have like little injuries or wounds, but it depends in the biological part, my chemical stuff in the brain, and if I can regulate myself because well, I had the chance to learn when I was little with my family, and they were able to show me how to copy with things, and I'm stable emotionally. And if I have like that background, if something happens, a trauma or a wound, I have like resources, and I can copy with that in a better way. But if I'm a person that well, we're going to talk about adoption now.
Yes.
In some minutes. Imagine I was abused when I was little, or I lived in a house with a lot of conflicts between my parents. That child, is not quite stable. He doesn't has, or she doesn't have like the tools to 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 copy with things. So if they go through another thing, like disaster we were talking about, or an abandon with a partner or something, or bullying, for example, at school, they're not going to be able to go through that. It's going to impact much more in that person, and they're going to have, the causes of PTSD. Well, maybe anxiety, depression, unstable, like ups and downs a lot in the way they copy with things, isolation, this kind of things. So it's about like the psychological part, and the emotional and the biological. So if I grew up in a like quite a good way, I can copy with things. But if I have that background where with little tools, then the impact is going to be very big on me.
Yeah, makes totally sense, and I think it's important to also, how do parents actually learn how to regulate their children? That
Mm-hmm.
happens very early on, and it's an extremely important thing to do and learn.
It's very important because parents do the best they can do, but it's what they learned. So they also have their background and their traumas and injuries and wounds. So they cannot learn what they don't know. So they give what they know. And imagine that they cannot mm, teach the children skills enough, or they cannot support them or make them feel free. Sorry, mm, safe enough. So I'm building a person who doesn't have any skills, or very few skills. So it's very important about how our parents, they take care of us, the support system, the family, friends. This is very important. It's one of the issues, that determine that I can go along with the trauma or not, and develop the PTSD or not. That's why if I have like personal history of background where people, they help me, the support system, coping skills, my chemistry, it's like quite good, then that will be quite better for me, and it would help me not develop a PTSD if I have a trauma. But if this stuff is not there, then probably I will develop a PTSD. That's the difference. When people, because not everybody develop a PTSD, and it's because of this background.
I think it was, I think maybe I read it in bestseller called Body Keeps the Score, when they were like back in the Vietnam War, when the American soldiers went back to the US, it would be more or less like 20 out of 100 people would develop PTSD after the war. And it makes sense in a way that, like you said, talking about the background, someone got very injured, mental injuries or from it, and some people did not that much. I think also that children, they copy and see what the parents do and how they react in situations.
Of course.
And that's basically how they learn regulations as well, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's it. We copy things. People, something parents should understand is that children do what they see, not what they are told to do. If I see that my parents, my dad gets mad and start yelling and throw things to the floor, then he's learning that that's the way we have to copy with things. I have to do things like that. This is the way you regulate, and that's not regulation. And it's very important to parents understand this, because it's very, very important.
Yeah, it is extremely important, actually. And what do research say now? Because complex PTSD is a pretty new diagnosis in the standard. Because back in 2018, it was very hard for me to get that diagnosis myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Yes, we're going to talk about that too later. But
I know.
why is that? It took so much time for them to recognize this
Well,
diagnose, because other people who they could not put that diagnose, so maybe they got you are a person who have a bipolar disorder or borderline disorder. No, it was complex PTSD all along. Why has it taken so long, and what does the research say now?
well, I don't know why it took so long. I cannot answer to that. But what I do know, because I work in the field, and with psychologists, friends, and when you go to trainings and all that, it's like you have to specialize a lot and you have to do a lot of work on that. I think they haven't given much, the importance that this has. As you said, Vanderhol and all that, they started searching with PTSD with the victims of war. But it was like they didn't really care much about this kind of people. So they come from war, and like nobody paid attention to them, what happened to them, right? And it was like, well, it's because of the war, yeah, but they had a complex PTSD and addictions. Well, that's because he's addicted. No, he has a trauma, and he's trying to get out. Like he's trying to not feel that and protect himself from that. So I think it's quite new searching about PTSD. If you see the research and you read about it, it's not so long ago that they have searching about this borderline and more now. I think we are working a lot on trauma, but not everybody. It's true that not a lot of people they have the training for working with trauma, and because you have to recognize PTSD. Because if not, you're gonna see what you see in the people comes is they told me I have a diagnosis of depression or anxiety, and you say okay, but I've been like this like a lot of 20 years in my life or 15 years, and I never get along. I've been to a lot of like psychologists, but I never get along. I don't know what happens. And when you do a good diagnosis, what you see is that you have a PTSD. If you don't go, you have to go to the to the first thing there. If you don't go there, then you're always going to be better off the depression. But if you don't go there to the main thing, then you're never going to be well. And it's like, I think you have to study a lot, and you have to understand that a lot of disorders, you have to go to the main place to see where they come from, to the wounds. And nowadays, I think it's more research, but you have to train a lot. And not a lot of people want to do those trainings, so it is hard to do that.
Are the trainings very hard to do then? Because
well, it's expensive, so
right.
That's one of the things you have to. It's not. Sometimes it's a lot of Americans. This like that. You have trainings here. Usually, you do, because I've done a lot of in Spain or in Italy or. I've went, I don't know, Dublin. Sometimes you got to go out, but you can see them. They come here to teach, or nowadays it's easier because you can do it online. Some years ago you didn't. You have to go out and pay a lot of things, but you have to like the basic thing. I think what I read a lot, do the trainings, but supervising. Where I have learned more is supervising. When I started working with trauma, spend a lot of money in supervising my cases, with people that know, very expert peoples, and that's how you learn. I have this case. What do I do with this? I don't want to damage my patient. How can I do this? Because I want to learn. I want to help him or help her. And having someone with you all the way along, that makes you feel very safe and learn. And there's where therapy comes in too. Because I remember the first time I had a patient that she talked to me about a rape, how she was raped. And for me, it was devastating. When I heard that, I was, I couldn't cry. I was like really freezed, myself. I reacted like that. I freezed. It was like, oh my God, what she's telling me. And I supported her how I could in that session. And after she left, I called my therapy and said, I need to see you. And I had to work that in how I felt when I heard that, because it was horrible. Or when the first time you hear someone talking about how she was abused, and you have to work that on yourself. If not, how can you, I don't know how to work with that if not.
I think it's very good that you went to a therapist and talked about it afterwards, because we are all human beings.
Yeah.
In the end of the day, and it's hard and emotional for a therapist to work and hear horrible stories like that.
It is.
And especially also, I've been doing a lot of group therapy back in Norway, and it will come up things like that and other things too in the group sessions as well. And yes, I do remember several of us, including myself, were reacting the same a lot of times when we were sharing our stories. It was a lot. And that's why it's so important to follow up on that in the right way. So we don't sit with more traumas after the session.
Yeah.
That's extremely important, I think. Why is it that trauma stays in the body, and why? Because a lot of people don't understand that. Because after a long time, you get older, you feel more pain, and that's Besselwander Kolk spoke again. Body keeps the score. When I read it, I was amazed how much. Wow, I understand why I have pain almost all the time. Strange pain, like electricity in my body, or my fingertips can get really hurt if I bump into something, and it feels like sometimes I have needles in my body and it's really burning. Why is it like that?
Well, that's one of the things of PTSD and trauma. The body keeps the score. It's a great book, and there are more books they talk about the trauma, how the trauma affects the body. The body is the one that receives all the trauma. It impacts on the body, and this is some of the issues that was forgotten. I think in a lot of years, when you work with trauma, you don't take it's the thing. The trauma is in the body. When you have imagine, I work with EMDR, and we distinguish in the T. For us, trauma is a wound. We say, "Oh, you have a trauma," and people's like, "I have a trauma." Well, you have an injury, you have a wound, and when something impacts in you, we distinguish the T, big T and little t. The little t is trauma attachment, and the big T is trauma in the body. For example, the big T is when the trauma impacts in your body, like a disaster, an abuse. It's in your body is injured. So we have to take care that your body, if you're raped, your body was raped. You remember in your mind, but your body, in you're abused or bullying, they bully you and they hit you, your body is damaged. So we have to take care of that. And because the trauma, it has a somatic part. That's why you feel a lot of pain in your body. Because when you have a trauma, you dissociate, usually because you have to keep on living. So I dissociate the emotions. That dissociation goes to the body. The body sustains that. That's the somatic part of the trauma that you have to take care of. And people now, you're doing a lot of trainings about this kind, but usually you work PTSD without taking care of the body. And the body has everything impacts in the body. And the emotions we're not able to copy with, the body's going to copy with them. So it's like the body keeps everything, and we have to. If you want to work a trauma, you also have to take care of the body. There's a training I did some years ago, somatic experiencing. It's to work the trauma going through the body. It's to work the somatic part.
Is that Peter Levine's?
Yeah,
things?
It's Peter Levine. Somatic experiencing, the training, and you learn how to work with the somatic part, the part of the trauma, how the trauma impacts in the body, and how to get into the trauma through the body with the movements that the patient do, and say, hey, that movement, could you please? And you repair the body. Things, for example, that you couldn't do when you're raped, your body you get freeze, because your body thinks it's the way you're going to survive, and you stop feeling things because it's like, okay, I have to go through this. So there's the dissociation, you get freeze. And women usually feel very guilty and shame because they say, I couldn't, defend myself. Well, this is kept in the body. The body remembers that he wanted to do this movement and he couldn't. So with somatic, for example, what we do is do that movement because the person needs to do that so she can go through. So we some kind of do it so she can complete all the circle, that the body is like the body kept that answer and it has to go out. For example, no, I thought about that, but the main thing is because the body keeps all that emotions that were dissociated. So when you touch someone or you touch and you remember, you know, all the part of the trauma. So it's very important to work the body in the trauma. If not, you're gonna have a part that it's, you know, if I touch you or I get near to you, you do like that, and you didn't think about it. Why? Because you're scared. You think, you know, I'm oof, and you see people that do like this, or when people come to therapy, you know, in my office, you've seen it, the sofa, people go up and down with it. When they come, it's like, vroom, I need more distance. Others just like go up the table almost, and you're like, wow, because that's about the attachment. I need to be closer to you, or I need you or you cannot touch people. Can I touch you? Always very important to ask. Can I touch you? Here is the space, to show them the space, because trauma is about no controlling. So it's very important, these kind of things, for example.
I think all of this is very interesting, and I actually did a somatic experience course a couple of years back in Oslo, which helped me pretty much. But then it was also the time that I learned that traumas was in the body, and it was nice to know, but also very frustrating. But also because I've been working so many years in the psychiatry system for 15 years and wrong diagnosed, and really been trying everything I could myself, spending a lot of money, private psychologists to public ones to alternative. But then back then it was when I learned that trauma stays in the body, but also that it's the sympathetic sympathetic nervous system. You need to learn to regulate your nervous system, and the nervous system goes through the whole body, and
that's it.
And that's explain the pain, at least.
Yeah.
But even today, I really believe for myself that this pain gonna come and go, and it's gonna be there, and I need to learn myself how to regulate it more. And which are ways to do that, to regulate your nervous system? What would you recommend then?
I cannot answer that in few minutes. That's a lot of skills and things to do. But one of the things is it's very important to know that every sensation has a story. You know, so when my body aches in some place, it's like, what do you want to tell me? That with the way we work in somatic, you say, oh, this is my arm, or this aches, or this hurts. Okay, if that part of yourself could talk, what would it say? It's like putting words on that, first of all, because it's not about what do I do with this. It is true that the body hurts, and you have to do like a lot of, well, depends on the person, what kind of sport to do, or go to physio or whatever, because it's true. You know, it's like the emotions stay in the muscles, in the tension. So I need to take that out too. I need to work on that, because it's true. The emotions, you know, the muscles get very strong and hard. So what I tell to my patients usually is like, if you ache about something, well, a part of doing all that stuff is like, think about that something has activated, and think about that. Just ask yourself, if this sensation could talk, what would it say to me? What's in this sensation? That's very important to work to work about that, for example. It's not easy to answer like this, but
no, I think you answered very well. But actually, for me, it would be yoga, going for a swim,
for example,
breath working, meditation, the mindfulness, grounding work. I have to do all these type of things regularly every week for me to, yeah.
That's a good example.
Actually, just function daily.
Yeah.
And Bessel van der Kolk, again, he said that yoga is a very good way because it helps you at least stay in the body. grounded.
That's it.
Before, back in the days, people when they were going through trauma, they were chanting, they were dancing, they were taking care of each other a lot more. Yeah, I think we should go over to borderline personality disorder.
Mm-hmm.
Is what is that? And again, what's the reason why that diagnosis gets developed?
Well, borderline is basically when the main thing when I explain it to people is like being unstable, having ups and downs, like a roller coaster. And if people say, "Yeah, I identify with that," okay, then we have an issue. That doesn't mean you're borderline. It's very important to understand that one thing are the symptoms. You can have issues of borderline, but that doesn't mean you have the disorder. That's very important. But not only borderline, any personality disorder. You can have the issues or the symptoms, but that doesn't mean you have the disorder because that depends on the intensity of all those issues. If they're very intensity and you have to have depends in borderline, for example, there's like 9 issues. You have to have minimum 5 of them in a big intensity, and the cause of those symptoms make you not functional in your life. That would be like the thing to say. You have borderline disorder, okay? So that's very important. For me, that is because it helps me work. The important thing is not do you have, don't have, is the symptom in trying to know the function of that symptom in the person. Not you have this diagnosis or, like put you there or something. It's just to understand. I think the important thing is understand what's happening to the person, and the person can understand why is he or her acting this way. Understanding this and the function of this symptom, because the symptoms has a function. And sometimes, it's like, how could this be something good? No, it's not good. It's just, yourself and mind, I don't know, whatever, thought that you need this to keep on functioning, for example. So this is one of the things, the causes of it. Well, usually we talk about like 3. But it's not only one thing. It's like a combination of a lot of things. Like we were talking before about PTSD, what was, why people do and don't have. Well, the first thing, like your background, your history with emotions, that's very important. That's the basic thing, important for having it or not. And then the causes we usually have for borderline is the biological part, the chemistry in your brain, biological. There are people, you ask about their family. What about your family? Anybody with a mental disorder or whatever? And that's the biological part. Then the attachment trauma and having been through some abuses. Well, sexual abuse or aggressive. Doesn't matter if it's verbal or not. It's having like this kind of environments. So some people have the 3 of them, some 1, 2, but it's a combination of a lot of them. And childhood trauma, of course.
Yeah, it's basically it starts to develop very early in life.
Yeah.
When it comes to this, and I think that's why we have problems. But this diagnosis has been very hard to diagnose, it seems to me, because it can be very confusing. What do you have to look for when you this borderline? What kind of symptoms do you look after in patients?
Well, I have developed something, I don't know why. I talk with a partner of mine, the psychiatrist I work with, and she's like my friend and partner in all this stuff of working with trauma. I couldn't do it without her. She's great. And we always laugh about it because I say, when I see someone that comes to the office the first time and it doesn't come by her, because if it comes by her, she has the diagnosis. But if it's not, I don't know that person. And that person doesn't know that could maybe have borderline. It's like a feeling. I don't know. I ask a lot of things I'm going to tell you right now, but I develop like a feeling that, I don't know, when I'm in front of that person, I start to feel something. There's a sensation that I identify like, oh my God, I think they're symptoms of borderline, and I just start like talking to the person. First, I listen. It's like see what's there, what that person brings to me, and I start. Well, what do I ask? Well, do you feel the way you feel things is up and down? You feeling up and always in a roller coaster, living like that? Oh yeah. Are you very sensitive? You're very sensible. You think things like affect you more than you like very drama. Yeah, I'm like, wow. The streams, you have a lot of strings in things. You don't have like the halfway. If they feel how's the even don't thing for them, the dependency, I don't know, the emptiness, things like that. I start asking. We're talking, and are you like very the frustration? Can what's frustration for you? Oh, I cannot. No, no, no. And everything has to be now. I want something, it has to be now. And if not, I get angry or I cannot work with that. I don't know. Just start like building it and say, okay, this smells. We're going there. It's like asking this kind of things, and people like feel it is like that. I didn't even ask there for trauma. I'm just looking for the symptoms. And after that, well, is this kind of symptoms, are you functional? Tell me in your life, in which areas are you functional? I start to look for those kind of things. Then I usually, obviously, ask like your relationship with addictions, with eating disorders, sexual things, things like that, because it's the way they usually try to regulate in a, well, not a nice way, but it's the only way they can get along with all these feelings, because it's very hard.
Yeah, so people develop basically unhealthy coping mechanisms when it comes to all type of traumas.
That's it.
Whether it's be addiction, could be to sex, it could be to smoking, it could be to drugs, it could be to alcohol, and it's basically
sex,
coping mechanisms to regulate your feelings, because an escape and dealing with the dissociation. I think that borderline is emotional unstable disorder, right? Yes, exactly. It's a better word for it than borderline.
Yeah, I usually don't say to my patients, well,
what is that weird stuff?
the borderline thing, but it's like this is I just explain. It's like the basic thing is being unstable emotionally, and there's like a group of symptoms. There's a pack here that says unstable, and in that group, and I like draw like an egg or something like that and say, in here there are all this stuff, emptiness, blah 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 blah. This group of symptoms make you unstable, and this like a type of personality, that the main thing is that unstable, but then people want to know more. But unless they're like ready to, because they start to look in Google, borderline thing. Wow, this me? No, that's not you, because you are a person. You're not that. You're not your trauma. You're not your disorder. You're a person that has some symptoms because of whatever, and that has a function, and that makes my life being in a way or another. So that's very important for people, because one of the issues of borderline is not having a good identity. So it's great. Oh, now I'm borderline. Now I know what I am. No, you're not borderline. You have that. So here it's like a risk. How you manage these things, you have to do it quite well, because sometimes you try to help and you're not helping. So it's very important people to know when they're ready, or because you read a lot of things of borderline and you're not going to identify with everything. So it's like when I give my patients things to read about, so it's like, read this. You're not this. You don't have all of this. I want you to read this and see where you identify yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that.
It's a lot out there, and it's very overwhelming. It can be extremely confusing.
That's it.
And because personality is we are human beings again, so it's so different from person to person.
Yeah.
But I think that why do some people develop borderline and some people don't? Is it the same? Not regulations early in life. Is that the reason? Or
Well, it's what I talked about before. It depends on it. It has to be all the personality disorders. Most of them, they have to It's when you ask people the symptoms. You have to do this since you were little, not when you were 30. No, I've been doing this, and I was 30. Now I'm 40. No, no, there's something else. But a personality disorder is since I was little.
yeah,
I
exactly.
did strange things,
It
you know?
happened very
Yeah.
early on in life.
This
Yeah.
doesn't mean because people can hear this and say, okay, I'm a bit unstable. I'm borderline. I have borderline thing. No, not everybody that's unstable. It's like you have to have, in that group, in that egg, you have to like have a lot of those symptoms. And they have to manifest, they have to like manifest in some kind of way,
Yeah, I understand.
because there are other things, or I can be unstable, but I don't have emptiness, I don't fear or I rejection, or I don't fear abandonment, or this kind. I don't dissociate. So it's like you have to have more things, not just being unstable. It's something different.
Yeah, I do understand. And now we're going to actually go over to something that's going to be very hard for me to talk about, which is adoption traumas.
Yeah.
And yeah. Uh, yeah, adoption traumas. How do basically they show up in therapy? What do you have to look for? Because this I will use some time to introduce, because I think that when it comes to adoption traumas, there's been a lot of misunderstanding, not been knowledge, and not been so much expertise in this field with this group of people who have those type of attachment traumas with them in life. And yeah, we can start with that.
Well, it's important to, when we talk about adoption, understand the adoption related traumas. To understand this, the related traumas in adoption is, it refers to the emotional and psychological wounds that can result from the experience of being adopted. Because when we're talking about adoption, we have to, like, some issues, have them in mind. We usually, when someone is adopted, it's like, well, I have adopted patients, and the message sometimes is like, well, you are, you have to be happy because you were adopted. Like,
Yeah, you gotta be grateful and all
yeah,
that.
it could be worse. So it's that in some way they feel sometimes that they cannot manifest, or I don't feel good.
You're not allowed
Yeah, you're not
to
allowed.
feel the sorrow that
Yeah.
you need to feel,
Yeah,
because it's mixed. I mean, everyone is happy that they are adopted in a lot of ways, or a lot of people are happy about it. Probably not everyone, but a lot of people are, and they are grateful for that. But you also carry with you the other part that is wounded, that needs to be healed, which not be recognized by society or most therapists actually, and parents even, and everyone you have around you.
that's it. You explained it great. When you adopt a child, well, it's like, parents is that, well, it's my child, so we don't want to talk about where he comes from. It's like, if he was mine, biological, and it's not like that. If you adopt a child, you should understand, or there are associations that help you, but not always, and they explain to parents what this is all about. And you are going to adopt a child, and this is what you're gonna have. This person is like three issues. I always have in mind when I have a patient like this, is like three parts. First, the pre-adoption. Well, I would say before that, the first one is I was abandoned because my biological parents, the reason, well, I was going to say it doesn't matter. It does if you search for your family, but at the end, I was abandoned. Usually, people don't know the reason they were abandoned until years pass and all that stuff. But I was abandoned. This is the first trauma.
Yeah,
So
you're getting separated from
yeah,
Your mom.
Your mom, and
Yeah.
sometimes from your country. Now
exactly.
nowadays, these things they do that they take like happen to you. You know, you're from India and you go to Norway, or you're from China and you come to Spain, and your parents don't even look like you. So this kind of thing is great that you give that child a place. I mean, I'm not saying that's bad, but you have to work a lot of therapy so you can help that person and yourself as a parent. So the three issues you have to take care of that. This person was abandoned, so it's a wound of abandonment you have to take care, and that will bring a lot of issues in that person. Then the pre-adoption, you were abandoned. If there's a period of time, they abandon you and they adopt you. That period, the pre-adoption, is very important because what happened to the child there? So there's a second trauma there. It could be a second trauma, and then they adopt me. And how? And I come to a house with new people I don't know, even though it's a baby, because people say a baby doesn't understand anything. He doesn't care. Sorry, a baby understands everything because the body. There's one of the things, we were talking about PTSD and the body, why the body hurts. Well, a baby from 0 to 3 is the period more dangerous because there is where you develop up all the trauma attachment. So imagine a baby that he cannot think, he cannot understand what's happening. It's just what he feels. It's only feeling. It's somatic traumas, pre-verbal and somatic traumas, the worst when you're a baby, because it's like you don't understand the baby. Well, he doesn't know that he's not with his mother. Yes, he do, because he smells his mother and the sound of the voice of his mother, because he was inside of his mother listening to that voice. So he knows it's not her. And that part is that is going to have a consequence. So this is very important to understand when you have a person in front of you that was adopted, because most of people don't understand. They come maybe to therapy, and you read about a lot of trauma. You had a lot of information, but I have patients that they come to therapy and it's like, I don't know what happens. I have a strange partner. Narcissistic is a strange partner. I don't love myself. I don't know why I'm always like doing what people want, and I don't want to be alone. I'm always feeling of being alone, and they tell me about your life. And they tell you about childhood. Oh well, I was adopted, but like that's not important. What? It's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
This main
People
thing,
are not even acknowledging that, because we are learned as adoptees just to be grateful and fit in and be assimilated in the culture we get into. And I've been in the best institutions in Norway for months, in and out, and medicated and drugged down, and electroshock therapy, the ketamine treatment, which helped me out of the depression, it was really serious, and where I was really suicidal as well. But nobody addressed that I was adopted until I came to you. So then I've been going in a very bad loop for 15 years, wasting my life, basically, and getting even worse, basically. And I'm working with a lot of adoption groups now in Norway, and we have these adoption meetings as well regularly. And most of the time, these issues we're talking about now comes up again and again. And there's still no help to get over there as well, which is catastrophic, especially now with all the illegal adoption investigations. Especially now they know at least that we are a group who needs help fast. But there are not that. Some help is come along, but not nearly enough. And I think that's really bad. But I think also everything is true when it comes to that. You have been in your mother's stomach for 9 months. You know the smell. You know what she felt. You felt. You could hear the voice. It's a connection there, and when that connection gets taken away so early, a lot of stress and things get started, and all the traumas starts to develop. And I do
You're
believe that as well, that we know that people like me in this group, they are more vulnerable for other trials and tribulations and things in life afterwards. Bullying, for example, dysfunctional family, a lot of things. And maybe we learn not that fast as other people, but we find coping mechanism to get through life. But it doesn't necessarily that all of us have lived a very good life. I've been spending most of my young adult life in the psychiatry system. Other people I know, they are not able to work today. They have a bachelor degree, for example, but they are not able to work because of holidays. So, and I had a podcast this week with an investigator from India, Arun, and he is the co-founder, or at least the leader today, of ACT against child trafficking. And he has been working with reuniting families, adoptees to their families in India for many, many years. And what he described when I asked as well, what do people experience when they get to meet their families? Yes, it's a lot of mixed emotions, obviously. It can be a lot of joy, but he says that's something that comes on both ways, especially the adoptee, is the heavy sorrow, the emptiness that we carry with us our whole life, even though if we meet someone. It's basically the abandoning part, that you feel that you are completely alone. And just last week I was in a rough period, and I asked my mom, and I told her about these sensations I had in my body, and I'm thinking about going to India now, trying to find something more. And I know she's trying her best, but it's so frustrating for me to go to her and ask for help, and she cannot help me with this adoption drama. Because you are looking up to your parents and ask them of help and guidance in life, but this is something they don't know anything. She doesn't know anything about it, and my parents don't, honestly. And how could they? Because they are not adopted. But also, it should have been years ago some kind of program in Norway and other places too that follow up these families with who have adopted more, and also like they do in the foster care situations in Norway. Because we are, what I've heard is that when you get adopted, at least back in the days, you are more or less on your own after you have adopted, which is a very big task for any parents to handle, I think.
It's very important to have someone to help you there. I don't really know how this works. We in Norway here, there is some places. I've worked with adopted persons that I collaborated with associations that gives them therapy. They follow up the family when they are adopted, or at least when they want to know their background here in Spain. And they go to these places so they can look for the history, like things they have about them, and they follow up with this. They follow up with the family, their adopted family, with them, so they give them support because of what they are going to probably see. They're not good stories, very hard stories behind that, and they give them the support. Some of them also, when they adopt their children, they follow up so they can help with all these kind of things. But it is the truth is that, well, I've seen a lot of persons or teenagers with a lot of problems in adopted children. Usually, not all of them, of course, but a big percentage of them, they do have problems, or conduct problems, behavioral conducts. A lot of them, a lot. And sometimes, the adopted parents are quite nice, but nobody told them how to manage with this. That person, teenagers, when you get to that age, all the things you have there, they start coming up, and they start being aggressive, and because it's very hard. Some of them, They don't even have their real name. This is something you should tell parents, because some children, I've seen teenagers very angry with their parents, their adopted parents, because they don't have the biological part. So it's, my anger is on you. It's not because of you, but it's on you because I don't have anybody else. So it's on you. And saying, call me this because my name is not that. Call me this. I'm this, looking for their identity, because they don't have an identity, because they don't know where they come from. It's very hard to don't look like anybody, And when people say, oh, you look as your mother, and you say, what? She's my adopted mother.
Yeah, exactly. And also, as adopted, we go through a couple of phases in life where we have identity crisis, which is even harder, which leads to depression and anxiety. And
exactly.
If you don't get picked up very fast, then it can really spiral down like it did to me. Yeah. I do think that, as we know today, that it's been a lot of money in the adoption industry, because there are private companies basically on both sides, in India and in Norway, for example. And whether or not the intention was good, I think it's about time to acknowledge that we are a group of people who needs help. And it's around 20,000 adoptees out international adoption to Norway since the 50s, 60s, I think it was. Maybe the 70s. But also what I've learned and seen in Norway is that even the people who are ethnical Norwegian was adopted, they are dealing with the exact same problems that we are. Yeah. But they are more invisible over there, even, because they look like normal Norwegians or ethnical Norwegians, but they are dealing with the same struggle as we have been doing and still do. So it's about time that's going to be some change there. But I was thinking as well, why do you think that we are such a forgotten group in the psychiatry system?
Well, I don't know.
Haven't been much research on it, maybe.
I don't know, but probably because it's hard to work with, because working with adoption people, there's a lot of trauma there, and you have to search a lot. So at the end, we go to the same place, is that not a lot of people have, you can sell yourself very well and say, I can, I'm an expert in this or that, whatever. But not many people have the experience to work with this and know what's behind that. And because it's like a big puzzle, yeah, it's not like working with depression, anxiety, or it's quite easy to do that. But working with this is like a lot of issues. You have to, probably there are, the abandoned part. It's usually you will find, at least you could find a personality disorder or symptoms from a disorder, and you have to do like a lot of research, because you're gonna have PTSD. You do have it. You have trauma attachment. You have to see if there's any issues of personality disorder. What you're gonna find in adopted people is unstable issues. You are gonna find that. And maybe they don't have the whole group of borderline disorder, but they do have a lot of issues of that. Unstable, the trauma attachment, like a lot of things that person is suffering a lot. And your nervous system, as you said before, one of the things in PTSD and this kind of traumas, or when you said, the baby, you take the baby from from the mother, your nervous system stays activated in the sympathetic. And that's what happens in PTSD. That's one of the things also why your body is activated. You're always activated. You don't go to the parasympathetic. It's very difficult. Why? Because your body thinks you're always in danger. That's what happened when people come from war or tsunamis or things like that, or you're abused or you're raped, is your body doesn't understand that, hey, I'm not in danger anymore. You have to teach the body again to get calm. That's what things like grounding, mindfulness, meditations helps a lot, because you can like go down but you have to do a big work. And I think it's kind of that, because at the end, what I see in partners and all that stuff, and because they give you cases, They call you, like, like you did. A partner of me said, I have a case I want you to see. I said, what? And things like that happens when someone does that. It's like, oh my God, what do we have here? Because there's a lot to work with that. And I don't know, I love my work. For me, it's passion. It's like, okay, what do we have to do with this? Let's go. So for me, it's like, I don't know, it's what makes my work. I love to do that and see, okay, how can I help you? What's here? And investigate, the symptoms and this and that, or because you have to do a good evaluation. This is very, very important.
Yeah, from the start.
Yeah. What do we have here? And it's not put in, like I said, PTSD, BPD, eating disorder. No, it's not about that. It's what symptoms do I have here in front of me? For me, it's like a puzzle, and I have a lot of pieces, and I have to build that puzzle with my patient. Both of us have to build that because it's your life. So I cannot do it without you. We do it together. And we have pieces, exactly. And we don't know where they belong. So we have to start ordering that, but you have to see. If you don't know, you don't see. You have to see. And if PTSD, it's first, or BPD, or what is first? Trauma attachment. How you have to order and see, what do I have to do first? Because sometimes you have to get PTSD regulated, or you have to work with regulation. That's the first thing of all. And from that, where do I go? Or here, and so it's not easy. And
no, it's extremely hard work.
And it's a lot.
It's time consuming. And in my experience, I would say that a lot of things also happen in the sessions, but a lot of things also happen in between sessions. The way you are living, what are you eating, what are you spending your time with. For me, it helps to have a lot of hobbies and do a lot of sport, and riding the motorbike, listening to music, creating music, again, going to the beach, taking a swim, be surrounded with good people as well. But it's a lot that it's a process.
Yeah.
Which always continue. When you think you're done, there's always something there. But
yeah,
I think that's probably life in general. But I think that it's very hard to work with adoption traumas because it happens so early in life. It's something that your I think it's the hippocampus, the memory, your brain. You did not remember what happened, but the body is. So, for example, for me, one of the hardest things for me, which has been very shameful, but also very sad and confusing, is for me to be in a relationship with a woman, because honestly, it's like it should be something that is good and all that, but it's extremely confusing for me because it seems to me that I'm at least okay when it comes to surround me with people, and I have some all right social antennas, it seems like, at least what people tell me. But when it comes to being in a relationship, it's been so confusing for me, and all these emotional roller coasters, and also being close to someone and dealing with their feelings. It's been extremely hard, and one of the hardest things is obviously for me to, when a relationship ends, it's like it's been like for me that I have to relive the trauma when I was separated with my mom.
That's it.
And it feels like you're just laying there in shock for a while, crying, and you cannot breathe, and your whole body is so intense that you just want to faint out, basically, because it's so hard to stand in. And yeah, I don't think that many people would probably not understand that unless they were in a situation like that or felt something like that. That's how it feels, and that's something that also comes up in the groups that a lot of people are dealing with, basically, that type of part, which is also very sad because it's something that you want as a human being to have a work or a career, whatever, and you want to have a partner, and hopefully you want to have children. So this is something a lot of us also have lost. We were not able to get all of these, maybe not even one of these type of things that seem very normal. So that's also the consequences, and yeah, which is hard. What do you think are the biggest challenges to work with people who have adoption traumas?
Well, I think all of them.
No, I'm not going to make it easy for you, I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, challenges. Wow. For me, the basic thing is work with regulation. Try to help that person to be able to regulate themselves. That's the basic thing, because if you don't know how to regulate yourself and your nervous system, then all the rest of the things you're not going to be able to copy with them. Having a relationship, I want to work, that's the basic thing. You have to learn how to regulate, because you don't know how to do that, and your nervous system is always activated and you think you're in danger. So I would say that's the basic thing, learning people to regulate and understand. It's very important to understand. Change comes after that. People usually think, yeah, you go to therapy and you have to make changes that you see. And it's like, no, the first change is understanding and being aware of what I do and the patterns I have that don't help me or are not good for me. And where do they come from? I have to understand why I act this way. So in adopted people, it's very important to understand, because they feel very bad. It's like, why do I do this? And I'm not able to have a relationship. It's something wrong in me. Of course, the wrong things on you. Yeah, you're broke, and if something happens, it's something on you.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
But we always are basically putting the blame of everything on ourselves, because there's no one else to put it on.
That's it, because we go to the main trauma. If my parents gave me away, then the conclusion is that there's something wrong in me. So you have to make a big work with people, and understand that, well, it's nothing about me. What can a baby do, So there was something in my parents. Maybe it was to protect me. Maybe it was because they had a problem. Maybe they didn't want me, whatever. But it wasn't my fault. So this is very important to clean with people. So I would say regulation, understanding, why my life is like this, why I have these patterns, the consequences of all this stuff. And from there, start working. And trauma is step by step. That's why it's very difficult to work with trauma, because it's like a big, like a trip, and a lot of work ahead. And you have to, like the therapist, be able to, like, I want to get into this, but also the patient. Because some people, get bored. It's like, this is slow. I need it to. If you don't understand how trauma is, then, I cannot work like this. This is step by step. It takes a lot of time, because we have here a lot of issues. The trauma attachment, a lot of things. So this is like, my God, it's little by little. And trying to build, little by little, the present. Get them out of the past, because usually, like happened to you, you lived in the trauma. We always like even have a discussion. You have to stop reading. You have to get out of the trauma. What? I read this and that, and always sending me things. Read this. It was like, oh my God.
That was really paining. Yeah,
It was like, this man doesn't understand that I learned this. It's like, see, yeah, but you have to do not this. Get out of the trauma. Go to the present. And you know how hard it was.
From me being the first day I came into you till now, what do you think have happened mostly with me, the development?
Well, I'm very proud of you. And the first thing, because you've done a big work. The person that went to my office the first day, I think that person, that part of you, thought that knew a lot of trauma, more than me, or I think you were testing me, and that's okay, because you cannot put your confidence in someone after you've been all you've been through. So I feel in some way that you were testing me, and that was normal, because it was like, yeah, he has to have confidence in me and see that I can work with him, or I don't know, I'm inventing, I know how to work with trauma, but it's not true. So it was like, I know how this is, and this and that. It was, no, this is not like that. No, yes, no. And I think you've done a big work, in letting yourself go, and let me lead you through trauma. And I don't know, you started to build a life build a life. And it's great to see someone like that, you know? It's like I remember a part of you that was like suffering and always like very negative. You have to do this, and you was like, what? I cannot do that. What are you asking me to do? You have to do sports. You have to stop doing this or that. You have to do this. What? I cannot do that. Are you like, are you crazy? No, yeah, you have to do this and blah blah, and you started to be confidence in believing in you, and that you could do something different with your life. You know, that the trauma is awful, but you're not the trauma. And it's very hard, but you can build things if you want, and you are building a lot of things. And I think that's the main thing you did. It was like believing in you and thinking I think that you have an opportunity of doing things different and not living in the past.
Thank you. It's very nice for you to hear all this. I need it as well. Try to embody the fortitude and flow, actually.
Keep here in the present with me, please.
Exactly.
Stay in the present.
Yes. It's very important, and I think that one of the core sources adoptees is just that, because we don't know necessarily what happened to us, and the papers can be fabricated or either or. It's like a feeling that when your parents didn't want you, you don't feel valuable as a human being, and I think that's one of the reasons why. That's something that probably always gonna be at least stuck with me, but I have to work around and find a way how to live with it better. I think otherwise, I think that of course it was good to come down here to Spain. It was hard. It was a lot of challenges as well. It's been sometimes very lonely before I got to meet friends and stuff. And I was reading a lot because simply nobody else had taught me this. So and I hear this from rest of the group, in the adoption group as well, that unfortunately we only have ourselves and each other, and we have to read and learn things ourselves, which is sad because we get triggered while we are reading this type of things. So when I read The Primal Wound with Nancy Weary Newton, it's about adoption traumas. A lot of things for me was like, of course, now finally I understand something, and also working with you. But for me, it was probably also a way for me to protect myself, if you say I was testing you. Without me not even knowing it, but also because I've been through so many therapists in my life that, of course, I would not trust anyone, to be honest, after something like that. You feel betrayed after everything I've been through.
Of course.
Which, in my opinion, 110% were. And you know, I've been dealing with this lawyer case, which is finally over. We lost the case because we did not have money enough to found it, but it was basically me trying to get some compensation for all the years I've lost and be wrong diagnosed in Norway. And we did a Zoom meeting or Google Meet meeting trying to explain what happened to me. You were there, my lawyer were there, and it was a couple of people there helping me with this event where we were explaining what I've been through. And I've been out with some articles in Norway, and I've been also talking about in a podcast called Adoptert Podcast in Norway about my situation. Yeah. And I really believe that this video from that Google Meet meeting will be the part 2 after this episode when I release this, so people will see the whole thing of it and the consequences from everything we've been talking to now. So I think I will release that out just the day after or something, so people can see the whole picture of what we're talking about.
Well, just one more thing, you know, this you're talking about is one of the changes you've had. You know, you talk about the adoption thing. You're sitting here, you're doing this. You've done a lot of things, and you understand, or you know the difference between the trauma that it's not you, and you're doing all this stuff. And you can talk about this, you know, the adoption, but like in a different part of myself. This is one of the things you've changed. You wouldn't be sitting here.
It really is.
Yeah, you wouldn't be sitting. We wouldn't be sitting here. It's incredible being here, sitting about this, talking about this, both of us, you know, like this, and doing the big deal you're doing. Maybe people don't know what you're doing about this, but you're fighting and you told your story. That was something, I wouldn't imagine when I met you, and see where you come from and all the things that are ahead of you and you can be able to do, but step by step.
Yes. I was very impatient.
Yeah.
It needs to happen today if something's going to happen. I've learned patience at least.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, and I want to use this opportunity as well to thank you, because I would not be alive if it wasn't for you today. And that's the truth.
Well, you want me to cry, Frederick?
I know I am. But it's been very hard, all of this journey. Every time I go to your office in a therapy session, it's hard. And also because you have to go into therapy. Maybe I've had 2-3 couple of good days vibing.
Yeah.
And then I have to go there and open up a lot of heavy stuff. And then you're going to take some time to get back into life again. So usually I'll just go for a walk and have something to eat, and then I'll fall asleep on the train back.
Yeah, we were talking about that before. I said that's the effect I have in some of my patients. Wow.
It takes a lot of energy and to work with traumas, but it also takes more energy living with the activated nervous system, because it takes so much energy doing that too. Yeah. Because in the worst case scenarios, you cannot even eat, you cannot function as a normal human being.
Yeah. Your body gets exhausted.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
So if you could change one thing in psychology regarding adoptees and trauma, what would that be?
Well, I don't know if we can, dream about it. What? Well, I think talking more about this, because they don't talk much about this, adopted people, and there are a lot of cases, a lot of teenagers with problems, with behavioral problems, and they end up in places, I don't know how you say in English, correctionals or things like that. And at the end, they end up in jail, most of them, because of that. So if you work with these teenagers when they're a child, when they're little and they're adopted, they have to be in therapy, family therapy, or they have to be in therapy because they have a trauma. And if you work traumas when children are little, then it's better because it's easier to repair. It's easier. So I don't know. It's something I think people don't. They talk about addiction, eating disorders. They do like a lot of publicity about other things. But adoption, they don't talk much about that. And it's a part of trauma. But I've done a lot of, trainings, and they talk about borderline, PTSD, sexual abuse, all these things. But they never talk about adoption. You know about that because you search. Because I have patients, and when someone comes, I have to search and see how can I manage with this, because it's part of trauma. But it's not something they really talk about. I don't know why, because there are a lot of, you find in the institutions. I've worked in a clinic for a lot of years, and we worked with teenagers, and we had a lot of teenagers adopted with behavioral problems, but very severe. And, well, I don't know. I suppose it's not interesting, or I don't know. But it's something that is a big problem.
Yeah, indeed it is. I know that I was recommended a few books that was written, I think they are from Denmark or something, or other. There are some books about adoption traumas and borderline and PTSD. Do you have any books to recommend people if they want to learn more?
You should ask me this before.
I know you have a lot of books, though.
Yeah, I have a lot. But the thing is that if someone is interested in reading something, suppose they can ask you in the podcast or send you a message, and we can look for something, because it depends. Because of the work we've done, that it's not always recommended to read things, because it can be a trigger.
Yeah,
reading things. So it's very danger to say, hey, read this or that. The Body Keeps the Score is a very good book, for example, because you can read about the body, but in PTSD, everything can be a trigger. I never give anybody nothing to read or to see unless I know that person very well. Or maybe we see something short in the office, or I send something, but always with the intention of not triggering.
Yes.
Sometimes you trigger people because,
it happens easy.
But it's, that's risky. It's because I don't know that person. And if you read about PTSD, of course it's going to trigger you. And that's, if you don't have a therapy there with you, I think reading things, I think you have to be in therapy because it's very dangerous. If you read something about PTSD, it's because probably you have PTSD. Because something, you're curious.
Yes.
Part is because of something.
Trying to figure out
something. And it's good to understand, but you cannot help that trigger you. So I think it's dangerous.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I was also thinking maybe for other therapists to read more about this and learn. I think that's important.
Well, there are a lot of, I think that, for example, Kathy Steele, I've done trainings with her. She's great working with borderline and PTSD, dissociation. Dolores Mosquera, she's one of my teachers. She's incredible. I've learned a lot of things from her in borderline trauma. She's incredible. She lives in Galicia in the north of Spain. She's got a lot of books, for example, and she has books written with Kathy Steele, and she does a lot of. I've done trainings with her. I'm not good of names. That's why if you ask me, because I'm very bad at on names. But they have books. If you look for Kathy Steele, there's always, I don't know, Sue something. I don't remember her name, and I remember the names. I'm bad about that,
You can send it to me later.
Yeah,
I
can
leave it
because there are, imagine there are a lot of books for therapists.
Yeah, I was thinking that it's important.
It's different.
Maybe if there are some therapists that want to learn more about it, and if they see this episode, it could be good for them to know.
Yeah, and dissociation. You have to have. It's like the thing is that working with trauma or this kind of disorders, it's not easy because you have a lot of training. You have to be trained. It's addiction issues, so you have to know about addiction. There's eating disorders, so you have to know about eating disorders, because if not, you're not going to be able to work with all the issues. Trauma, PTSD, it's like, how to regulate. So there's a lot of skills there. This is because it was, I don't know, I started with addiction. I didn't do it on purpose. I suppose life took me there. I started with addiction, then eating disorders, 18 years. There I met borderline disorders. It was like, what is this? God, when I saw a teenager once in the clinic, yelling at me, and it was, what is this? And I started to investigate. That's where I started. I said, what is this? And there is where I started my, working and searching about trauma and borderline and all that stuff. But it was like something I didn't look for. I liked addiction, so I'm going to work with addiction. And after that, I said, I want to change. And I just saw this clinic that needed someone. And I said, eating disorders, I don't know about this, but okay, I want to know. I'm curious. I like to learn new things. It was like, I know enough about addiction, so now I want something new. Because here's like, I cannot do anything else. I know everything, so I need something new. And I went to eating disorders, but it was always like, because I saw that offer. And I learned about that. And there is where I learned there are a lot of, behind eating disorders are a lot of personality disorders. It's incredible. People don't know about that. And there are a lot of borderline things and PTSD.
And it seems to me that a lot of, for example, I have had OCD, which I got a good treatment for in Norway, but they did not understand or tell me that those are symptoms on complex PTSD, which is a lot of things to see here. And like you said, with eating disorders, is that also a coping mechanism to deal with some kind of trauma? Probably, I'm guessing now.
Yeah.
But I've been in an institution where it was two groups there, people with OCD, and it was also people with eating disorder. So I did not learn very much of it, obviously, because I was a patient myself, but I did see a lot of things that I was thinking, what is that? Why is it like that now? And the way they worked around it, because I saw a lot of things. But like you said there, so it's a lot of other diagnosis behind that again and symptoms.
Eating disorder is what you said. It's just a coping skill. There's something behind. It's not the food, it's not the body, it's OCD. OCD is because there's, I need to control something.
Yes, control.
Yeah, I've been through my wounds. I have wounds because I've been through issues that I couldn't control. I was abandoned. I was bullied at home. They didn't treat me well. So, all that stuff is like I cannot have the control. I grew up and I feel that I don't have the control of things. I feel very unsafe. So I need, the control part. And I can get to OCD. Depends on the intensity.
Yes, that's exactly how it is. And that was really bad for me, at least back in those days. It controlled my.
That's why it's very important, if psychologists listen to this, that you have to look for the function of the symptoms. So I would say, what do I do with my patient when someone comes into my office for the first time and second, third, and whatever is symptoms. What are your symptoms and the function of that? We have to understand, both of you, the function of this. Why do you do this? Because the same symptom is not the same for everybody. So it's very important.
Yes, it really is. And it's extremely important, I think, to get a very thorough start, that the therapists are really investigating and asking about the patient's life from day one. What happened to you? And not jump up till when you were 15, for example, and you forget about everything else. You miss a lot of information.
Yeah.
And also, at least in my case, they prescribed me so much medications that I could not even feel myself anymore. I was just like a robot, and I did not feel, when I ate, I could just eat and eat. I would never feel like I was full up or food or anything. So it was a lot of things that, and I was starting with the medications alone, quitting them alone. I was left totally alone with it, and that's also very dangerous. It could be.
Of course. And that's not the way of treating things. If you're so medicated, unless, well, sometimes when someone, it's in the risk of his life, sometimes, yeah, you have to put a lot of medication, but that's like a short period of time. So that person, it's like it goes down, those kind of thoughts. But after that, if you're so medicated, how can I work with you?
Yeah, exactly.
You cannot work because you cannot think, you cannot feel. So it's just the chemical part is to regulate a part so I can work. You can work with your therapist.
Good point, because for me, it was that I could not even feel anymore. I was totally flat for years. So when you're starting to work on yourself then, and you actually trying to get back to some kind of life or work with therapy again, that actually works, and you start to feel again after not feeling for 10 years, it's very shocking and overwhelming.
That's another trauma. Imagine,
Yes, exactly.
You're out of yourself, and in 10 years, like in coma. After 10 years, then you start feeling all the things you've not felt. So imagine how that is.
And also because so much have happened to yourself and your body and your experience in life, because you are a little bit there, obviously.
Of course.
And it's like a shock. It's like waking up for basically a coma. And like you said, it's like, yeah, what I've been telling you is, now I'm in therapy because of the therapy I got earlier as well, which we have to deal with too, because it takes time.
And that happens sometimes when...
Fortunately, it does.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was thinking we've been through many things now. I think that we can, Fortitude means strength. What kind of state of mind, mental qualities, techniques have you used in your life, in your career?
Oh, my God. That's why I did my web because some people, and that's very good. They investigate the types of therapy. We do therapists, and they come to the office. You do this, that, or what do you do? And it was like, wow, my God, how can I say all the things I've done? I'm very curious, so I'm always doing things. I've done a lot of kinds of therapy. And well, I don't know. EMDR is one of the things I work a lot for trauma. Now, the last thing I've done that I was looking forward to do that, and I'm very grateful for being able to do that, is internal family system, IFS. That's great to work with trauma, with parts and all that stuff. It's for trauma. EMDR too. They're the most, I think, somatic experiencing. I think they're the main for working with trauma, but all the background, I've been learning, searching. I don't know. I've done so much because I've done trainings of everything: borderline, dissociation. I don't know, trauma, a lot of little things, and what I said, addiction, but the main thing I work with, I don't know, I suppose I would say EMDR and now IFS. That is the last thing I've the last training I've done. But it's how I was the other day. I was with my colleague, the psychiatrist I work with, and we were talking about patients and all that stuff, and she said, what do you do? It's incredible what you do with patients. And I say, I don't know what I really do. Because now when someone tells me, if I had to say, how did you help this person regulate? And I would say, I don't know what I did. I cannot tell you, how did you do it? I don't know. I just do it. And she said, I liked it a lot because she's from outside. She said, I think what you do is that you've done a lot of things and you have the ability of putting everything together, making it yours. And now it's very easy for me. I don't think I'm going to do this or no, it's just I see the patient and it's like it goes out. I do this, I do that, I do this intervention or the other one. So it's like, I don't know. I think I don't know how I do it. I just have everything in my head. And when I see the patient, it's like an instinct. I think now it's better to do this or that or whatever. We have a lot of things to work with trauma, cards for you. You've used some of them. I have new ones that we have to work on from IFS.
I'm looking so forward.
Yeah, they're waiting for you in the office, Frederick, to work with our new cards of parts, inside parts. So I don't know if this answers your question or I don't know. It's more confusing.
I mean, it was good answers, but I think also, I think it's because you did start with addiction in your career, as you said, and I think that's then you see the surface, and then you need to go deeper to find why do they do this? Why do they have this coping mechanism? Most people even know that these coping mechanisms are not good for ourselves. We are hurting ourselves even more while we are doing it, but we still do it. And then you go deeper there, and it's like a big puzzle you put together, like you said. Yeah. And you are an extremely patient person. In
therapy.
Okay,
in therapy.
In therapy, all right. Yeah. So I think that, but you are very good in what you are doing.
Thank you.
Sometimes it needs to be it's something you build trust and stuff. You build trust and you feel calm there, and you feel like you are in a safe place while you are working with very uncomfortable stuff. So I was also thinking that if somebody wants to contact you as a patient, but also I know you do training.
Well, in my web, or they can contact you, but in my web there's my phone and my email. The email, sometimes I don't see it. No, I'm not very good at this. I have a lot of stuff going on. So the best thing for me is WhatsApp.
All right.
That's how I usually, the best way or easiest is WhatsApp. The emails, because I have an email, professional one I have there, and I don't look at it. I'm a disaster with this kind of things. But WhatsApp, what I work with the patients always, to put the sessions, this, that, and things. So calls, I usually don't answer because I don't have much time to do that. But the best thing to talk to me, WhatsApp.
Yes.
So in the web, they can, if you can put the web, or if they can contact you there's my phone. And if they want to know anything, can you give me information about books or this or trainings? Maybe not with me, but who did you train with? Or how can I, Dolores Mosquera, or Kathy Steele, or this or that, or IFS, what did you do it? How did you do that? Because it's all American thing. They're doing it in Spain. You can do it in Spain. The trainings, you can do it here. But it's I think it's more to see who you do the trainings with sometimes too. So, I don't mind giving information and helping people in that, because I think it's important people to train themselves. So if I can collaborate in that, it's great, because it's good for patients.
It's perfect. And leave all your contact info in the show notes.
Okay.
So I would thank you very much.
Thank you
For be a part of this.
A pleasure to be here.
Thank you very much. Namaste.
Thank you.